To pay your rent or mortgage or not to pay? That is the question of the day. Before I get into suggestions, pros and cons, I'm going to first explain how the new laws, the CARES bill, how that affects both renters and mortgagers. Unfortunately, the law didn't necessarily claim any debt forgiveness whatsoever for us renters and mortgagers, the little guys. They're just allowing us to postpone them. So everything will have to be paid in the end, bottom line. First up, mortgagers. So the CARES bill affects only, well, it was signed to protect only those with federally backed mortgages. That means if you have a Freddie Mac or Sally Mae, no. Fannie Mae, one of those Mays, Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae loan. You might have one and you don't know about it. You don't know it because oftentimes once you sign up for a mortgage or sometime throughout the life of the mortgage, it's sold to another company. So first things first is you want to figure out if that applies to you. It's about 50%, less than 50% of people with mortgages. So that's number one. Number two, if you do have a federally backed mortgage, the three most important things to my knowledge are you are entitled to 180 days of a forbearance period. You file an initial request for, I want to say 60 days, and then every 30 days after that, you can file an extension for a max of 180 days. That's the current law. And the second part is that, you know, I have notes. No additional fees, late fees anyway, will incur as a result. No additional interest. You still probably will be paying on interest throughout that forbearance period, unfortunately, but no additional interest or interest increase will come as a result. Also, you know, for sure, there are no foreclosures. So from now until those days, you have to make sure you stay on top of your paperwork, because if you fall off, most likely they might say, hey, we're still going to file paperwork. So recap, defer up to 80 days. No additional late fees or any other interest fees, any fees at all. And I believe that you are able to pay whatever is deferred on the back end of the loan. So if you take 3 to 6 months, whatever, then that is just applied to your loan, is just going to be extended. Now, if you have a non-federally backed mortgage, then you can very well still reach out to the mortgage or the loan servicer. Those rules just won't apply. Well, the laws, I should say, they won't apply. That company can create whatever laws and rules they want to. So you might pay higher interest. I'm not sure. It depends on the company. You probably will have a shorter time frame, not the full 180 days to defer. And if you defer, if you file for a forbearance, you might even have to, you know, at the close of that forbearance, let's say if it's 2 or 3 months, after those 2 or 3 months, then you have to pay it all at once. So that's how it works for mortgagers. And when it comes to renters, there are like 3 categories. So the first category is people who are renting from people with federally backed mortgages. The loan essentially trickles down to us. So if your landlord has a federally backed mortgage on the property that you're renting from, and they file a forbearance, then by law, or I believe by the regulation agency, FHFA, Federal Housing Financing Agency. So they say, since we're giving you a break, you have to give your tenants a break, which means if you are filing for this forbearance for this time period, you're not allowed to evict your tenants throughout that same time period. Problem with that is there is no checks and balance. That system that I know of, you know, like I'm supposed to ask my landlord, hey, do you have a federally backed loan? Oh, you do? Oh, so if you do, that means that, well, wait, did you file the forbearance? Oh, if you did, okay, so that means you can't evict me. I can't really have that dialogue, you know, like an open dialogue. And if I do, they can easily conceal whatever it is they want to. So the second category is people who are not renting from a property that has a federally backed mortgage on it. If you are on that property property, then your landlord, depending on your state, they can still require that you're paying and just say pay up regardless, or you're evicted, unfortunately. The category is renters that live in certain states. So I don't think it's nationwide, but there are eviction moratoriums in place, which is an eviction ban, saying that for these amount of days, you are not allowed to evict regardless of what type of loan, federally or non-federally backed loans. You just can't. I know California, some counties in California, New York as well. Lots of states have that in place right now. So you're protected. But the thing about it is, if you don't pay now, you will have to pay eventually. So regardless of the category for renters, you still will have to pay your rent. So if you do say defer, if you need to defer, right now, if you are unable to pay rent and you need a solution, regardless of what category you fall under, have a conversation with your landlord. I spoke with mine and she was super gracious. She said, you know what, we'll just figure it out. So there was not a whole bunch of pressure there. I don't know if all landlords, I mean, I know not all landlords are like that, but at the same time, it's worth it to initiate a conversation, especially if you fall under one of those categories where you're not protected. If you are in a category where you're protected, either way, like I said, you have to figure out at what point you'll be able to, repay whatever it is you don't pay. If your landlord is saying, hey, it's all forgiven, then great. If not, in Los Angeles, I want to say, if you don't pay April and June, those are protected months. If you skip rent those months, then you have to pay by November, I want to say. So factor that into whatever your plan is. But it all starts with a conversation. Now, same thing applies to those who have a mortgage. Regardless of your category, it all starts with filing that paperwork. It all starts with, if you're able, having a conversation with your loan provider. If you are non-federally backed, then I don't know. It's a harder decision because the rules, they're not as favorable. So if, say, you do defer and you have to repay it all at once, after the deferment period ends, then don't rush to do that. I would say right now, both for renters and mortgagers, take it month by month. Still put something on it. Always put something on it, because like I said, none of these are going to be canceled. So we're just going to breathe. Me first. In summary, if you have to defer, yes, but at the same time, think of the end game. Think what's going to happen long term. Maybe we'll even have to band together and start talking to our senators and whatnot to see if they will cancel the debts overall. But for right now, we have to think both short term and long term. So I hope I helped. If you have any questions, hit me up. All right, like, share, comment. Listen, people need information. Sharing is caring. Each one teach one. Whatever else. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and ask questions. Okay, bye.